My name's Dr. Joshua Berg, and I'm a licensed psychologist in Denver, Colorado. In thinking about my experiences learning about and practicing self-psychology, one of the things that I think has really changed about my life is I've become a more related person, and that both at work and in my personal life. Which I think it seems like such a simple idea that relationships matter and that feeling understood by someone is valuable, but I don't think I really recognized how essential this is to our lives until I began learning about self-psychology and other related theories like intersubjectivity. And so looking back on my life before coming to these ideas, I see examples of how much of a difference empathy, understanding, and emotional attunement can make in people's lives. For example, so right after graduating college, I worked with children on the autism spectrum, providing applied behavioral analysis under the supervision of licensed behavior analysts. And I think of that time, I remember one kid in particular. So most of my work occurred in children's homes. There were very specific instructions for the very specific behavioral interventions that needed to be provided, and my supervisors would routinely shadow me, checking that I was doing the interventions appropriately and making sure that I was mapping out all the data in responses that the child was providing. And thinking about that, never once did my supervisors ever ask me about my relationship with these kids, or to be curious about what certain, maybe unwanted at the time, but what certain behaviors meant. And it was enough for me to sort of follow the intervention plan, collect the data as I was supposed to, and work to increase the behaviors we wanted, decrease the problematic ones that we didn't. And that was pretty much how it went. One of the kiddos I worked with, though, he had services at his school where implementing these kinds of structured plans just turned out to be impossible because of the nature of running around in a preschool with a bunch of kids. And instead of this strict intervention plan, I got to play with him. I got to ask him questions about why was he kicking off his shoes? Why didn't he want to participate in gym? What was it about the other kids that he didn't want to play with? And granted, he was, of someone on the autism spectrum, he was verbal and could engage in these kinds of discussions with me. But we got to really build this deep mutual relationship with one another and to understand, what was going on when he couldn't feel he could participate, when he couldn't feel he could communicate himself to the other children. And over the course of the school year, I remember watching him go from, basically playing by himself or becoming very upset if someone sort of intervened and messed up one of his games, to routinely, seeking out other kids to play, seeking out me to play with him and join in the games. And, when I look back on that, I recognize it, the behavioral interventions, the sort of reinforcing this behavior or trying to set a limit around that behavior, those are important and valuable, and they have their place for sure. But I think what really changed this kid was our relationship. And I know it certainly changed me. I felt something for him. I cared a lot about him. We cared about each other. And that, looking back on it, I think was, without really knowing at the time, a very self-psychologically informed treatment. I think he looked up to me. There was a lot of, what we would call in self-psychology, there was a lot of mirroring. I would mirror his affect back to him and help him understand what he was feeling. He looked up to me, and there was a lot of idealizing experiences. I could kind of help him soothe himself, protect him. He was safe when I was around, and he felt that. And then the twinship too, I would get down on the floor and we would both just sort of be goofballs at times with each other. And then the other kids would be goofballs with us. And we all joined in together. And these are the kinds of ideas that self-psychology brings to therapy with children or adults, as I work with primarily now. And I think learning that lesson, both back then, as well as through my study of self psychology, has been probably one of the most important lessons in my life of just how to be much more related to people.